Okay, call to order the Los Alamitos City Council regular meeting of Monday, November 15th, 2021 at 5:17 p.m. Madam Clerk, will you please do our roll call?
We have Mayor Chirko,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Hasselbrink.
Here.
Councilmember Bates.
Here.
Councilmember Doby.
Here.
Councilmember Nafolda.
Here. And next, we will move into closed session. Our city attorney will take us into closed session.
Thank you, Mayor. The City Council will now adjourn into closed session to discuss items 3A through C as listed on this evening's agenda.
Thank you. City Attorney?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. The City Council has returned from closed session with no reportable action.
Okay, thank you. Next, please join us for the Pledge of Allegiance and the Invocation. Ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please bow your heads with me. Our gracious Heavenly Father, we just thank you so much that you've given us just another day to come and do the business of the city and the community that we love so much. We just ask that you help us in our decision making to make sure that we use our wisdom and our common sense as we guide the city forward. We ask that you protect all of our first responders as they're out protecting us. Guide our state, guide our country, and as your will be done. In precious name, amen.
Amen.
Thank you. And next, we'll move on to item 6A, a presentation of a commendation to the Los Alamitos Police Department in recognition of Law Enforcement and Support Personnel Day. Thank you. Chief, are you coming up, Chief, or coming down, I guess? Hi. Okay, so today is Law Enforcement, well, it was last week, I guess, Law Enforcement Records and Support Personnel Day, and I've got a proclamation here on behalf of the city. I'll read some of it, not the entire thing, but whereas the protection of our community is dependent not only on the men and women who devote their time and energy to the duties of law enforcement service, but also on members of the support staff, such as law enforcement records and support personnel, who devote countless hours to performing the duties that keep our law enforcement agencies running smoothly. Support personnel in Los Alamitos play a crucial role in helping law enforcement agencies identify, pursue, capture, and process suspected lawbreakers, and they continually share their invaluable expertise and experience to assist in tracking felons, maintain criminal statistics, and improve apprehension strategies. Also, the records and support staff are cross-trained for front counter traffic and serve as an integral part of the prosecutorial team, as they're responsible for the proper handling of all property and evidence booked by the sworn police personnel, ensuring the successful prosecution of crime and criminals. And finally, the police department currently employs 2 full-time records specialists, 1 full-time civil liaison officer, and 4 part-time police aides who in the calendar year of 2020 assisted with approximately 1,456 police lobby contacts, processed 941 police reports, prepared 347 court packages for prosecution, and booked 1,850 pieces of property and evidence that were related to crime reports. That's a lot of work. So we want to say thank you to you. Captain, did you want to say anything? Or Chief, did you want to add anything?
Right. Today we have a person missing from our group here, and it was our record specialist, Mandy McDowell, and she's just off and couldn't make it. But we have Gina Tavasi, who's also our records specialist here, the 2 full-timers and our police aides. And then our police aides, we have Demery Aguirre and Belinda Roman. And we have just hired a couple other police aides to help with parking as well, and so that's why they're not here right now. They're new hires, but we'll get them on board and be doing that parking enforcement. But really, truly appreciate the hard work that they do. They're the people you see at the front counter all the time, and they really help to diffuse a lot of kind of tough situations. Very few people come to the police department really happy or and not in, that they're in need of services, and seriously so. So they do a really good job, and we really appreciate the due diligence. Thank you.
The chief and the captain take all the glory, but we know in the background you all are doing the hard work. So thank you for that. And I'll hand this to you. Chief, you want to be in the middle here?
No, I want you in the middle. Exactly where I need to be. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, sorry. Thank you. Okay, next we are pleased to have visiting us our Assembly member, Janet Nguyen, for a legislative update. Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you, Mayor and Council. Again, my name is Assembly Member Janet Nguyen, and I'm pleased to be here with you all this evening to provide a legislative update from this year's legislative session. As some of you know, I represent the city of Los Alamitos, Fountain Valley, Seal Beach, Westminster, the unincorporated areas of Washmore and Midway City, and also part of Garden Grove and Huntington Beach as well. And as you know, I've previously served this city as your state senator. So just in Sacramento, a few things. One, I currently serve on 4 committees, on the assembly committees. I'm vice chair of revenue and taxation. I'm on transportation, banking and finance. I'm also on water, parks, and wildlife. I get a lot of people ask me, why are you on water, parks, and wildlife? Well, for those who don't know, we have both a Chica Conservancy in our district that has been well protected, and we want to ensure that the funding gets there. So having one of us, or having me on that to represent Bosa Chica, is extremely important for our district. I'm also on 8 select committees. Orange County oil spill. I'm on the Orange County Homelessness and Mental Health Services, Veteran Employment and Education, which helps me tremendously for Los Alamitos and Seal Beach, given that these are our 2 military bases in my district. I'm on Corporate Board and California Workforce Diversity Domestic Violence. And then the other 5 is Early Childhood Development, Emerging Technologies and Innovation, Food Systems, Master Plan for Higher Education in California, and also Uplifting Girls and Women of Color in California. I was also recently appointed to the California Commission on Disability Access, which I am learning a lot, and how much lawsuits there are all across the state against small businesses. I've heard of them, I know of them, but we're getting data actually to see where all those lawsuits are and how they we'll be able to find the data for my district, specific city, and if there's something all of a sudden that starts popping up quickly, then we can then also work with the cities as well, just to help some of the businesses. I mean, one thing that we've heard a lot with that commission is that a lot of the restaurants right now are still outdoor dining. What they forget, though, is they still need to have a handicap parking space. They forget, and they actually don't have it because they need that space for their outdoor dining. Well, that's actually a violation, but they don't know that, and it just didn't dawn on them. But those handicap parking spaces needs to be there, and so we're trying to get out there to inform some of the businesses, because it's not intentional on their part, but that's kind of what I get to do on that commission, to represent the state assembly. So before I continue and actually start into the legislative issues or bills that I would like to give you an update on. One is, you've heard of the Huntington Beach oil spill. Just a quick update. Right now, there's a full investigation. Today, we actually had the first oil spill committee hearing in Orange County. And we talked about, what happened, how can we prevent it, where the investigation. Right now, we know for a fact now that it was a cargo ship. When that happened, we don't know. Why don't we know that? We don't know. They, I think, have narrowed down to a ship that is owned by China government itself, that is under investigation as of, I think, last couple of days. But all those information are going to be coming out. Notification in terms of the public and all that stuff has been talked about. Is how do we coordinate, making sure that the city, state, and county all coordinate and get the information at the same time, because we weren't. I wasn't actually really informed until Huntington Beach, my city, actually called us. My mayor called me and told me. So, but the state kind of knew, but then, so it was various times, and so a lot of little mechanics that has to be done and technicality that we never thought of, and now we do know. So going forward, there'll be legislation for us to figure out how we make sure this doesn't happen again. But one thing I do want to make sure that people know, if you're going to any of our beaches, if you see any tar balls, do not touch it still. They will be coming up to the coast, to the beach from now to the end of the year to another 6 months or to up to a year. They're just washing from the ocean. They're not something you should touch. Please make sure you find somebody or call the authority, and they'll have a cleanup crew to come out. Any of the beaches from here could be a little more north of us into LA County, but then also definitely down south in Orange County, and also north of San Diego as well. So anywhere, please don't touch it. And I'm really proud that, we were there, met with lots of the officials, met with Port of Long Beach as well. One of the things they're trying to do right now is, or they've implemented, is the 24/7 working hours, so that these cargo ships can move and the container can get off the ship. It takes between 8 to 15 days from when it actually comes in and the containers are off the ship. The challenge we have right now is that there's not enough trucks to get these containers off of the land, because there's no more space to put more containers on land if these containers are not moving. And that is a whole other problem. With AB 5 taking out a lot of independent truckers, and the zero emission trucks that's required, where a lot of these independent family-owned truck don't have enough money to buy these new zero emissions. So a lot of these trucks are sitting idle somewhere in California and not being operated. So in addition, they're also now fining these companies if they're not moving these containers off the land. So our job is to make sure that these containers or these lands, because I know the port are looking for land that belongs to the state, and hoping that we would let them put these containers in. And obviously, if these container gets in your neighborhood, you're going to see semi-trucks going through your neighborhood. And so we're watching it very closely, because we border Long Beach. And so I am definitely on top of it, or working to make sure that we are on top of it, to protecting our areas in our neighborhoods. In addition, we also were able to give almost 1,000 KN95 masks and 500 elastic metric masks to the Boca Chica Conservancy to help their volunteer crew. And last, I want to thank the 7,000 plus people who, when the state needed volunteers, signed up and wanted to come out and help. Most of them are from Orange County, lots from across the state, but that tells you what a great county we live in and our residents. And so I just want to thank all those who made an effort, signed up, and wanted to get out there and volunteer and help us clean up the beach. So greatly appreciate that. Next, I want to congratulate you. Los Alamitos Unified School District received 2 National Blue Ribbon Award this year. That's 2 out of 8 in Orange County. That, and then not only that, but your school district is the only one in the state that had 2 for one school district. Mm-hmm. Thank you to you, the parents, the teachers, the school board member, the administrator, but more importantly, I said the parents, more important, the students. They achieved the impossible. Given COVID-19 last year, the shutdown, they came back with a bang and gave you 2 national awards. And so congratulations, and I just want to thank everybody for making that achievement, and especially the kids. And I was there at both of them, and I told them, don't forget, the sky's the limit. Look up to the sky and achieve whatever you want. Just work hard. You'll make it. On to some of our legislative. So our legislative session has ended. The state this year the state legislative body introduced 2,776 bills and passed 983 bills to the governor's office. Of that, the governor signed 917 bills and vetoed 66 bills. So I'm not going to talk with you on 983 bills tonight because of limit. I'm just going to address a few that I thought that you probably have already heard about it, or might be of interest to you because of the issue. First, as you know, with the COVID-19 pandemic, it has devastated our community's businesses. As a small business owner myself, I completely understand, and I know firsthand how difficult it was for all of us who had to deal with the shutdown. Two bills that were passed and signed, AB 80, which allows eligible businesses to deduct business expenses that were paid for given Paycheck Protection Program, which is PPP, or Economic Injury Disaster Loan, EIDL funds. Second bill is SB 87, which appropriates $2.7 billion for California Small Business COVID-19 Relief Grant for businesses, and this is a grant, not a loan. So those two bills I thought would be of interest in terms of businesses. Three bills that I want to chat a little bit about in regards to children and families. I have two children in elementary school, 8 and 10. And so with the COVID, would have to homeschool them, I completely understand and how difficult it was for all of us. And I can totally know when there's a parent around, because we can all just laugh about it, because it was very difficult. Especially for us who also was having to juggle between getting on Zoom and then your kid on Zoom and then the other kid on Zoom and figuring all that out. And so these three bills, though, I believe they're great bills, and I thought you would be interested in knowing them. First bill is AB 130, which now will provide and fund universal TK education for all 4 years old in the state of California. And one thing that I'm hearing in the state that we're going to be fixing is a lot of the private childcare, like the Boys and Girls Club, like KinderCare, are not part of this funding or not allowed to use it from this. So we are going to actually look at legislation that would allow them to next year to amend this. And that's one thing about the state, is that we would do a bill and then we would then hear some of the stakeholders, and some of the stakeholders don't always come from the beginning of when the discussion happens. They sometimes find out near the end of it and the bill's already moved. But that's one of the things, like the Boys and Girls Club, the KinderCare, you have had your child there since preschool, since birth, right? My two boys went to Boys and Girls Club at 6 months and 8 months, so it would have been difficult to move them out at 4. It would be great just to keep them there until they have to go to kindergarten. So I think that a lot of us are in discussion and looking at trying to find a solution next year for it. SB 224 will increase awareness of mental illness and how to seek help by requiring that students receive age-appropriate instruction at schools that offer health education. And last, SB 169 secures $500 million to support the higher education student housing grant to construct more student housing across the state. The next topic I wanted to talk about is EDD. I think it's our favorite, or we've heard about it, something like $30 billion of fraud. The three bills I'll mention are to help us in regards to the fraud. One is SB 753 allows Workforce Development Board to assess EDD wage data for purposes of evaluating the program's effectiveness. Yes, we need a law to make sure that the state makes sure that our programs are effective. And because EDD really became such a mess this year. And so the next one is AB 110, which will now require EDD to cross-check claimant information with the information provided by the California Department of Correction and Rehab to make sure that we don't pay prisoners unemployment funds. So you know the $30 billion I mentioned? Well, it went to the prisoners. It should not have, because they were not unemployed. But it did go to them or their names. And so now we are requiring that EDD cross-check applicants with the California Correction Department to make sure it's not a name that someone's in their prisons. The next one is requiring AB 12, requiring EDD to stop sending outgoing U.S. mail with individuals' social security number on it. Because it was, a lot of these letters were sent across the state. Unfortunately, some families receive a lot of letters from other people that they don't even know, but it has social security numbers on it. And so we have to stop identity theft and protect the individuals. And just kind of for my office, we've had over 2,000 cases of EDD. We are working, we're kind of the middle person working to help our constituent with EDD, and we've been pretty successful. And you know, I would offer, and again, if you know of anybody who still hasn't been able to contact EDD or still need help, or if you had your payment but you believe that you were miscalculated from last year, we can still also reopen your file and reassess that, or EDD can work with us to reassess your file. So if so, feel free to reach out to my office. Our phone number is 714-843-4966. That's 843-4966. And then two more topics I would like to talk about. One is public safety, and the other one is on veterans, bills that's affecting veterans. Public safety, there are good bills and there are lots of bad bills. The one good bill is that AB 57, we have expanded training on hate crimes. As you know, lots of hate crimes occur all across the state last year, and a lot of them had to do with against minorities, especially Asian Americans. And so this bill would help train expands more training on hate crimes, and also review law enforcement policies related to hate crimes as well. And then three bills that I did not support, but I thought that you might want to know. One bill is AB 333, which was signed into law. It weakens anti-gang laws and removes loitering, vandalism, felony theft, identity theft, etc. from the list of offenses that demonstrate a pattern of criminal gang activity. And then the next one, which SB 383 allows basically children, juvenile offenders, to sell drugs, and it's not a crime. So in other words, children under 18 now can sell drugs starting January 1st, 2022 in California, and they can be selling those drugs at school or outside. What this bill essentially do for us is that drug dealers are going to start recruiting children to sell drugs. I actually, right after the bill was passed, when I came back home, I sat down with my two boys. As I mentioned, I have an 8-year-old and a 10-year-old, and I reminded them what you do and what you don't do when it comes to this. And even though it might sound cool, it's not. And so I think this is a discussion parents should have with their children, and remind them why we always love Red Ribbon Week. And Red Ribbon Week should actually be every week and every day of the year, and not just that week. So that was signed into law. One bill that did not make it to the governor's desk, but I believe it will probably come back this coming year, is SB 357, which removed penalties for prostitution-related crime, basically meaning that it will make prostitution legal in California. I have no doubt that this bill will be coming back this coming year. It was passed by both houses, but it just never, it was held at the desk and never moved forward. So those are the bills and last is, as I mentioned, I have the only 2 military bases in Orange County, Seal Beach Naval Base in Seal Beach and the Joint Forces Training Base here in Los Alamitos. As a member of military family, taking care of our veterans and active duty is one of my #1 priority, and it's extremely important to me. A few bills, 2 bills that I thought would be of interest. One is AB 107, which will now require all Department of Consumer Affairs Board to provide 12-month temporary licenses to military spouses so that they can go to work if they choose to. So if they were duly licensed in another state and has passed a background check, they should be able to carry that license here in California and have 12 months to also be able to work if they choose to. And this was actually a bill that I worked on as part of the California Military Council when I was in the Senate, and I'm so glad that now that coming back, I was able to vote on this bill. So military families, because the complaint is that they've moved, and the spouse might want to work and has a specific license with the Department of Consumer Affairs, but now can't because they're not licensed in California. And then they would have to take the test over, and sometimes by the time they do the study and the test, they're moving again. The second one is SB 667, which authorized the administrative executor or any personal legal representative to file a claim on behalf of the veteran for the disabled veterans property tax exemption, even if the veteran themselves, the individual, cannot do it. So that actually allows someone else to be able to help them to get that tax exemption. Again, Mayor, thank you for and the council for allowing me the opportunity and the privilege to be here, and for giving me the opportunity and the honor to represent you and the residents. My office is here. We're here in Huntington Beach. We're not open for the public per the state assembly rules. We're still in shutdown, but we are in the office. We're just not allowed to open it up for public just to walk in. So please communicate with us by phone, by email, if we can be of assistance. And I do want to say is I really appreciate your staff, your chief and your city manager, and also your council too. Is there are times where things go really fast in the state, and I'm able to contact them, and I get response like in seconds. And it's I'm so grateful for that, because, some of these things we need to know right away because it just happens to come up at that moment for a vote or some arguments that's going on, or things that's going on. And so your staff are so responsive, and also you and the council as well. And so we're very, very grateful to be able to have that relationship. And we can pull each other aside and say, hey, we might not always agree, but we can always have that robust discussion and to also get different perspectives so that I can carry your message to Sacramento. Again, please feel free to reach out to our office, especially with the EDD issues for any residents in Los Alamitos. Thank you.
I think we may have some comments and questions, if that's okay with you. We really appreciate you being here and for the legislative update. I know Councilmember Bates has a question.
Assemblymember, as the mayor said, thank you so much for being here and taking the time to come and present this information to our residents. We very much appreciate it. Just 2 points. One, I'm privileged to represent the cities of California on the California Massage Therapy Council, which regulates massage businesses throughout the state. And obviously, in addition to trying to combat human trafficking, we also combat prostitution in the massage establishments. So I'm hoping if Senate Bill 357 comes back before you, that when that bill's being discussed, they'll talk about the relationship between prostitution and the massage businesses and how that's going to be handled in California, because obviously it may not be the best idea moving forward trying to legalize this, and especially in the relationship to massage establishments and how we're trying to keep that out of those establishments. So just as a thought.
Thank you.
Second thing, as you're aware, Los Alamitos and Rossmore, an unincorporated county area, have a long history, and we cooperate on all our recreation activities. We cooperate with our police activities, in fact, cover a lot of first-in responses into Rossmore. And as you probably know, Rossmore is in our sphere of influence. And we know that Rossmore has some challenges, and they're working with you possibly to improve their position vis-a-vis the county, which has difficulty providing good quality services to them. I would just petition you, don't forget us in that discussion, because we're closely related to Rossmore. We provide services to Rossmore. They utilize our services, and they're in our sphere of influence. So I would just petition you to please make sure you include us in those discussions. And thank you for being here.
Absolutely. May I respond?
Yes, of course. Go ahead.
So, Councilmember Bates, I don't know if you know, when the California Massage Therapy Association, CAMTA, was formed, I was one of the board members.
Oh,
Representing the counties across the state. So I'm very familiar with CAMTA and have worked on quite some legislation as well, making sure that these massage therapy locations are protected, and so that we try to keep away, we try to make sure that the prostitution part of it is not welcome.
Exactly.
And protecting cities, how many are there, and protecting cities and residents as well. In terms of the bill, a lot of those were discussed. But the good news is the bill was it was held at the desk, and I think there's a lot of speculation why it was held at the desk. But the good news is it didn't get overwhelming support to pass. It barely passed. But it still did pass. But I will make sure that the next time this comes back, I will mention specifically the massage stores and the issues we've been battling over in that area. In terms of the legislation with Rossmore, I was asked about picking up a bill that was actually going to be authored by the previous assembly member, but because of COVID, it was pulled. So Rossmore said, hey, it was going to be introduced. Because of COVID, he didn't get to do it. Can you go ahead? So we thought that there was already discussions within the Rossmore district, the residents and et cetera, and the stakeholders, everybody was on board. When we did introduce it, we found out that never occurred. So right now the bill has been held by me. I do have to the end of this year, beginning of this year, to put it forward. But I have gotten the district's commitment that they are going to bring in the stakeholder. So what I would recommend, and I will also mention to the city manager Mendoza over there, Joe Mendoza, is to making sure that you are part of that stakeholder, because this should be something that we work together. And you're right, it's basically the county issues that they're having, and the county not being transparent with them in terms of their bills. And they would give them bills, but or they wouldn't even let them see the contract of who they contract these services to and what that means. And so they're just getting the bill to pay for something. And as a mom, I think I would agree that I just don't want to just get the bill. I want to know what I paid for. And that's really what all taxpayers want as well. I would definitely mention to them to include the city of Los Al as part of the discussion. I know that they've done a few of their community meetings on that issue.
Thank you. Does anybody else have any comments or questions? I would just make one comment. Local control is an issue you probably hear about all the time. And, I just want to reiterate that many of the members of the council, many of the residents in our city are concerned about the erosion of local control, particularly with new bills like Senate Bill 9 and 10 this year that have the potential to really reshape our neighborhoods, some of our neighborhoods. And I've received a lot of comments from residents who are concerned about that. So, I just want to bring that up to say, and I know you didn't necessarily support some of the bills that we're talking about, but I just wanted to bring that up to reiterate our concern there and our hope that there will be opposition to anything that further erodes local control.
I'm completely with you and 100%. Haven't been on the council, county board of supervisors. I understand what local control means. I opposed those two bills. Unfortunately, I actually ended up with COVID and had to quarantine for 10 days, and that's when those bills came forward. So it will list me as not voting, but that's because I wasn't there, not that I didn't want it to vote against it. But you're absolutely right. Those two bills will have a drastic impact all across our neighborhoods. And I've said this in the past, is there are some neighborhoods that likes the single-family homes. And now literally you can come in, buy that single-family home, rip it apart and build a fourplex, regardless of parking. And that's not how it works. And we all work too hard to build our family, find a location that we love for our family and put a foundation. And it's not right that the state coming down. I understand we need more housing, absolutely, but this is not the right way to do it. We need to be able to actually, quite frankly, expedite the process of building housing in the state of California. It takes 2 to 3 to 4 years to build them. And the cost of building houses now it's up there. It's in a couple $100,000s of dollars just to, or more to build homes. And Orange County, in my district in particular, the average houses now is at least $800,000, and that's almost like a fixer-upper. In certain areas, over $1 million is a fixer-upper. It's not. It's unaffordable, unsustainable, especially for our children as they grow up and as they want to build their own foundation as well. And so, I would definitely keep that in mind. But you don't have to worry because I've always been for local control.
Thank you. Thank you again for visiting and for the legislative update. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next we'll go on to oral communications. At this time, any individual in the audience may come forward to speak on any item within the subject matter jurisdiction of the City Council. Remarks are to be limited to not more than 5 minutes per speaker, and we've got a couple of speaker cards. Wendy Gross. Hi, Wendy.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem, and City Council members. My name is Dr. Wendy Gross, and I am in the medical field, so things that I don't like to see happened in my very neighborhood. I have argued for years and asked for help, and now I'm coming directly to you guys. We have a situation. I live a block from Oak Middle School, and in the morning and in the afternoon, traffic is horrific. The problem is kids coming to school and leaving school, and the alleys with the cars coming out presents a problem. And the very thing that I have been frightened of for some time happened. It was auto versus bicyclist. The kid was hurt and he was taken away in an ambulance. I don't think any of us want that to happen to anybody here, whether it's a family or not. I definitely don't want to look out my window again and see that. But I can tell you the scream was horrific. I heard it all. And the poor kid. The one thing I will say, I don't know how to thank that kid for having that helmet, but that helmet was on that day, and that kid went head first into the blacktop. So can imagine his injuries would have been had he not had that. We have this issue that I've asked, please, not just the lines that we put that haven't been kept up to break the ice, but when you guys come out this weekend, drive down the alleys and ask yourself, when do you really notice the sidewalk versus the blacktop? You won't notice it until you hit the blacktop, so your mind isn't thinking about the person walking or riding their bike fast down that sidewalk. And with kids, they don't think like that. Their mind isn't in that mindset. Their growth and development is different than ours. They haven't gotten to that experience yet where they can decipher, hey, I need to slow it down right here. There's an alley. They don't look that way. So what we need to do is find every means possible to stop this and to help cars recognize there is a sidewalk there. I would like to see the stop sign that says caution children crossing under it in the alley to get people to say, wait a minute, something's different. lines up, something that we can do. I don't have a full answer. That's something you guys can work amongst yourself with the traffic commission or whatever. I know this sign, I took a picture of it, I sent it to Councilmember Bates. It was put up over there behind the church on Wallingsford for cars coming out of the parking lot behind the church so that they would remember kids going to Oak or to Los Alamitos were coming down that direction. That's all that sign was for, was to protect the kids. And that, so we've seen it before, we see it all the time. This year, sadly, I see more kids than ever with that handlebars with their helmets hanging as if a direct decoration rather than on their heads, and more than I've ever seen. And I don't know why, but I definitely don't want to see a kid hit by a car because of a car coming out of the alley and not recognizing a kid is coming quickly down that sidewalk. I can tell you a week after that incident, I was right over by the American Legion. I stopped, I saw the car, but the kid who came up on the bike behind me didn't. Luckily, the car hit their brakes quick enough and just about hit the kid. So my asking you tonight is to please address this as a safety issue and expedite it. Let's not wait for a kid to have a serious injury. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Shelly Henderson. Hello, Shelly.
Mayor Churko and members of the council, my name is Shelly Henderson. I am not a resident of Los Alamitos, but I do have a business in town. I am here to talk about redistricting, that is, redrawing the lines of voting districts all across the state. In particular, the California Citizens Redistricting Commission is on deadline to finalize boundaries for Assembly, State Senate, and congressional districts. They have just released proposed boundaries for those districts, and anybody who is interested in that topic should go to wedrawthelines.org. Check for, down at the near the bottom of the page, there is a link to their interactive map. It's a whole lot easier to see what they are doing if you use the interactive map. You can turn on and off the current boundaries, the proposed boundaries, city boundaries. It's really quite a slick online tool. But I do urge everyone to please go to wedrawthelines.org and check out the proposed new voting districts for Congress, State Assembly, and State Senate. Now, earlier, Los Alamitos and Rossmore both sent their own resolutions saying that they did not want to be included with Long Beach at any level. The proposed new voting districts did not include Los Alamitos and Rossmore in any Long Beach proposed districts. So yay for that. On the other hand, 10 years ago when we went through redistricting, there were new maps slid in at the very last second that ended up with, oh, guess what? Long Beach eating chunks of Orange County. So keep on top of it. Again, please go to wedrawthelines.org, look for the online interactive map tool, and check out the currently proposed new voting districts. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we'll go on to council comments. At this time, council members may also report on items not specifically described on the agenda that are of interest to the community, provided no action or discussion is taken except to provide staff direction to report back or to place the item on a future agenda. Councilmember Bates, we'll start off with you today.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor and council members, I had the privilege of talking with Wendy about this issue. I brought the issue to the attention of the city manager because I had personal experience with this. in that there have been a number of times when I've been driving over near Oak, either early in the morning or as the kids exit from school. And what I've noticed is they're riding their bikes not only without helmets, some of them, but in the wrong direction. Instead of with the traffic, they're riding against it. So maybe I can ask the city manager for a brief on what, I know he said he'd follow up on this and what we've been able to do at this point, and do we have any other longer term plans to address some of these issues? And it happens not only at Oak, it does happen at the high school and at McAuliffe also, but I've just noticed it personally at Oak, which is, I think, what Wendy was talking about.
Of course, sir. And I think that the area surrounding Oak Middle School is obviously, it's a tough nut to crack on the traffic front, just given the parking and the traffic flow in the area. That being said, I think that we've made some strides in the area, but there's obviously more we can do. And I do believe that additional signage education is the first step in that battle, and then following on from that with enforcement. So I think our first step is going to be looking at ways that we can actually slow down traffic in the area more than we already have, and then try to actually draw attention to the fact that there are multiple types of modes of transportation that are being used. It's not just cars that we have to be aware of, people coming out of their driveways, it's also the kids that are going to be biking and walking to school.
I'm wondering if we've had any interaction, though, with the principal at Oak and terms of education with the kids. Kids, I know they're young and a little bit maybe careless sometimes, but if you don't have a helmet on, our lovely police department is going to contact you once. The second time, we're going to contact your parents, and I don't think they're going to be very happy. I'm wondering if we can make some suggestions such as that so that we see a little more aggression, let's just say, on the part of the school to make a difference with those kids and get them to put on their helmets and not have them on their handlebars.
Of course, sir, and the chief and I will discuss that.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure. Any other public comments?
Just two other real quick things.
council
One, just to thank everybody who showed up at Friday at the ABC. I know the mayor was there. Next door at the American Legion Hall, the mixer for the chamber. That was very well done, and I think some of you have already gotten the information from the library board. I attended that in Santa Ana over the last couple weeks, and they've got a whole bunch of new databases to help people for employment and any kind of training that they need to improve their status. So if you haven't had a chance, check on the LoSal library for some really good information.
Excellent. Councilmember Nafolda?
Yeah, I would just reiterate, I'm one of those parents dropping their kids off at Oak Middle School almost every day, so I do witness that, and I do see a lot of the things that were mentioned, so that would be of great interest. I attended the trunk or treat and just wanted to tip my hat, and I thought it was a great event. Kids had a great time. Once again, just a job well done. And received information and the LoSal bucks. So had an opportunity to use that at a local restaurant, and I hope the residents are taking care of it, and I'm hoping to see that to be successful. So,
Great. Councilmember Doby?
All right. I have a list. Okay, so first of all, I'm remiss because I went to a ribbon cutting for the CBD hub that I forgot to mention last time, and I think the most exhilarating part of that were there were 4 officers present, and it was just so cool to see the community come together and show support. It always makes my heart really happy. Whatever business comes into Los Alamitos, that we have some facet from every department that comes out to check in on them. And I would like to recommend the Red Velvet Latte from Donut Boss. I also was at Trunk or Treat at Little Cottonwood. I gave out over 4,000 pieces of candy. And it was like, I wasn't giving fistfuls. I was like, okay, everybody get 2 or 3. I gave out more than 4,000 pieces of candy. So many smiling children, so many smiling parents. It was I cannot stop raving about our Parks and Recs department. We absolutely have the most stellar and stupendous staff that I've ever seen. And I actually take time to Google and look at what other people have access to, because my personal experience is with y'all, but we have the absolute best. I also went to a press release at 60 Minute Spectacles. He specializes in kids' eyewear. Like if you have a small child, when they're like 3, 4 years old, it can be kind of a struggle to get them to wear the glasses. He specializes in making sure that they fit, making sure that they're comfortable, and that they look cool. And I got a pair of glasses. Anybody that would like to take a closer look, come and see me after this meeting. But he also has a beautiful art gallery in there as well. So the whole setup is really nice. I went to my mosquito and vectors meeting, and I would just like to remind us all about the Aedes mosquitoes. Do not leave any standing water in your home. The Aedes mosquitoes can live in your house. They can live on, they're worse than roaches, just a drop of water. Their eggs hatch, their eggs can lie dormant for years, and then they're like gremlins. You get them, or I'm sorry, the mogwai, once you get them wet, it all breaks loose, so just be mindful, don't leave the standing water. And then I went to my HR committee meeting, and I attended a school carnival at Rossmore, and again, just seeing all of the children outside, seeing all of the families. I'm so happy that we have activities that our community can go to, where our children can have fun and be safe and enjoy. And that's it.
All right. Mayor Pro Tem Hasselbrink?
Thank you. I also did attend the trunk or treat at Little Cottonwood, and I honestly say this was probably the first event that I've attended where I didn't think about COVID the entire evening, because it just wasn't in your face, and it was nice. I know you guys worked a lot of magic. The kids that were there, I think there were 3,000 maybe. It's a lot, and it was just neat. Wendy, Dr. Gross here, she was all decked out with their Model T and everything, and it was just the whole atmosphere was just a wonderful night for the kids and also for the adults. I mean, I walked away out of there quite happy. So once again, fabulous job on that. Regarding the Los Al Bucks, I did visit over at Green Street Interiors as we gave them their signage and everything. I'm receiving just awesome comments about just creative ways to be able to give back to the residents and also the businesses. We have a couple little hiccups, not life-threatening, just hiccups in a program like this. Pretty unprecedented. I now have other cities calling me saying, how'd you do that? So that's kind of cool. But it's just, you know, the businesses love it because they get people in there. People love it. You know, they're able to buy Christmas trees over at the youth center. They're able to go out to dinner and everything. So it's a great program, and we're addressing the hiccups, and I guarantee everybody will walk away quite happy with it. So that's it.
Very good, thank you. Also in connection with Los Al Bucks, I visited the Precious Life Shelter and their store, and learned a lot about Precious Life Shelter. It's really an impressive organization. They do great work. And the store is neat as well. They take donations, and they also sell stuff to help fund their cause. So it's a great place in our city, one of the many nonprofits in our city that do good work, and it's a good place to spend your Los Al Bucks. I attended a Eagle Scout Court of Honor ceremony for a young man in our community, Mitchell Hine. He's with Troop 658 of Los Alamitos. He's an impressive young man, and I showed up to give him his certificate, and it wasn't the first certificate I had given him because he finished Race Los Al 10K in second place. So this guy's making himself known in the community. So I was honored to present him with a certificate, speak very briefly, meet his family, and hear about all the great things he's accomplishing. So that was pretty neat. I also attended the trunk or treat. Like everyone else has said, it was just a great event. It was really fun. I went with my kids. I took my nephews as well, and they all had a blast. It was my nephews who do not live in the city, and my sister came, and they are from a bigger city, and they were blown away by what we do here. Well, we'll take credit for it too, but what our recreation department does here. So thank you, Emmeline, and your team, as always. I attended the Sanitation District Board meeting and Administration Committee meeting, and just a couple of items from that. One of the neat things we did was, folks are refinancing their homes because of low interest rates, but the Orange County Sanitation District also refinances a little bit more than our home. $100 million of existing debt was refinanced to a lower rate, which will save OC San $22 million over the term of the issuance, which is 12 years. And that savings will not be used to create any new programs. It will just be used to reduce overall costs of the debt program, which is great. And then the other item which we've talked about before is that construction has begun on the Los Alamitos trunk sewer project. The first phase is on Lexington Drive and Catella Avenue, taking place at night when flow is low and most businesses are closed. The project is cleaning the sewer lines, grouting the pipe joints, and rehabilitating manholes. Have we had any issues with that? Any
I don't think that we've had any large issues with it. Actually, the Orange County sanitation staff has been very receptive to Director Noda's urging on making sure that we're informing the public as much as we possibly can. And then also I have to take my hat off to the Development Services team for the amount of information that they're pushing out to the residents about not just, hey, this project is coming, but where exactly the construction is going to be and when is it going to take place. I think that that's been very helpful.
Excellent, excellent. Right, and the construction is in different phases. It's going to move over to Los Al Boulevard and be more disruptive because I think they're tearing up the street at that point, if I'm not mistaken. But there's updates on our website. We'll continue to provide updates. I'm sure the city will continue to send out updates by email, perhaps by mail as well. This is a long-term project. So I also attended a neighborhood pumpkin carving that one of my local neighbors set up. He moved in from a nearby city and decided he wanted to start this tradition in our neighborhood, which was great. We had a special meeting last week where we talked about redistricting, our desire to be in districts tied to Orange County and not Los Angeles County. And we passed a resolution in line with that. I have looked at the, and I think you were looking, Shelly was also, or Councilmember Hasselbrink was looking at it as well. It does not look like the visualizations are on the website right now, and I'm getting error messages with looking at the maps. It doesn't look like anything's changed since the maps we looked at last week, which did have Los Alamitos in an Assembly, Senate, and Congressional District. That was primarily in Orange County. So it doesn't look like anything's been changed there, but we cannot access those maps currently. I also attended an Orange County Transit Authority Mayor's Forum, and along with Councilmember Bates, attended at the American Legion, the Event News Enterprise Best of Edition, where the city of Los Alamitos won a couple of awards for our wonderful parks. So that was fun. Next, we'll move on to items from the city manager.
Just two items for you this evening, sir. The first being Los Al Bucks. Obviously, the staff continues to make strides in putting out additional information and resources for both businesses and for our residents to be able to take advantage of the program. As was mentioned, we did experience a few hiccups, but I will say that it has been overwhelmingly well received by a number of businesses in town. We have a two-woman team that's out there hitting the pavement, actually visiting every storefront in the city. They are close to actually hitting all the storefronts at this point. And this will be followed up with additional mailers here in the coming weeks and additional social media in order to make sure that the residents know how to use their bucks and what locations. And then I did also want to mention that I had the ability to take my daughter to the trunk or treat, and I think she did her best to get all 4,000 pieces of candy from from the councilwoman. But I did want to ask Director Noda if she could give us an update on the events that are coming up for Christmas or for the holidays.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the City Council. We have a busy December coming up. I'd like to invite the community to the Memorial Care Miller Children's and Women's Hospital, Long Beach Winter Wonderland, Saturday, December 4th, from 4 to 7:30. It's on Pine Street and at St. Isidore, returning to the 2019 format that the community loves and enjoys with our snow sledding, Santa. We've got, our staff has done a great job securing 10 community performances from 7 schools and different community groups. We've got vendors, still vendor slots available as well. We have our inflatable area, food vendors as well, and a trackless train. So I'd like to encourage the community to dress warm for snow, waterproof shoes, snow jackets, all of that, and encourage you to bring out some new and unwrapped toys for our toy drive sponsored by Southline Credit Union. And then just some upcoming reminders. We have our winter brochure that is hot off the press, going out in the mail this week. So look out for that. We've got some events listed in there, such as our holiday decorating contest on Wednesday, December 15th. We've got toy drive, got winter camp, drop-in shop, holiday art workshop, and a whole lot more activities for the whole community. So I thank you for your time.
Thank you. All set?
All set.
Okay, thank you. Next, we'll move on to agenda item number 10, the warrants. Anyone have any questions about the warrants? Councilmember Bates?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, starting on page 2, could we get a little more information on government staffing services contract account? And there's, I believe it's $27,000 there. What's involved with that?
Of course, sir. So during the last 2 years, we've had some turnover in the finance department where we have gone out and we've solicited outside help in order to help us maintain our financial records and make sure that we're doing all that we can do to make sure we're protecting the federal dollars, or I'm sorry, the local dollars, and making sure that they're expended properly. And so those are the contract amounts for the accountant work that was done in those situations. I'd like to report, though, we are now back up to full staff in the finance department. We do still use outside auditors and such, but we're slowly pulling away from that, except for special need projects.
Got it. On page 6, there's a cost there of $829. Building maintenance, I guess it has to do with leaks that are over the PD, in the PD, and I wonder if we could find out a little bit more about that.
Yes, sir. And I will ask Director Noda if I go too far off script here. There was a leak that was underneath the parking lot in the police department that was flooding the area and had to be quickly repaired, and that is what that expense was for.
Got it.
And has been repaired.
And it has been, okay, good. How about on page, excuse me, on page 8? The fleet systems, Voyager and the garage fund, there's $6,000, $6,800 for that. Could we find out a little bit more about what that's about?
Of course, sir. That is actually where we charge our fueling to.
Okay.
So that is the cost of for police vehicles, public works, and the admin vehicles that we have out on the streets.
And then the credit was?
Simply because, and I just found this out myself, or had to ask, Director Noda informed me that it's because we don't pay as a government entity, we don't pay the local tax.
Got it. How about one last question on page 13? I know, I probably, I don't know if this one, somebody's drinking a lot of beer there. $1,342 for the Kiwanis Club of Los Alamitos, but the way it's presented here, percentage from beer garden general fund, can you help us with that?
Of
I'm
course.
sure it's not quite as it says.
And again, it's just the format that it's in.
Thank you.
So at our street fair, we did have a beer garden, and the participants or the nonprofits that worked it did receive a portion of the proceeds to pay for the time that they spent actually serving the beer.
Got it. Okay, so that wasn't the staff just enjoying a little, okay, I'm just checking.
The chief made it pretty clear that none of us should be in the beer tent,
got it,
so
got it.
we all stayed away.
Okay, thank you. That's good, Mayor. I'll move approval if there's no other comments or questions.
Okay.
Second.
Okay. Madam Clerk?
Do roll call. Mayor Turco,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Hasselbrink,
Aye.
Councilmember Bates,
Aye.
Councilmember Doby,
Aye.
Councilmember Nafolda.
Aye. Okay. And I see someone in the audience. Perhaps I didn't open it up to public comments beyond the 2 cards. So if you had public comments, feel free to come on up. Yeah.
I'll be really brief. You guys run a really tight ship. It's nice to see it going so quickly. My name is Bill Phillips. I'm a resident. I've been here for a little over 20 years. I own a local business. I own Played Against Sports, and we just moved from Catella to Los Alamitos Boulevard. In the midst of doing all that, we moved pretty darn quickly. We're trying to get it there, before school open up and everything else. We do a lot with the community. We do a lot with our CSD, with the RHA, with the boosters. I get, officers in the store all the time. They park in our driveway and make sure that cars aren't flying down the street. We've been open for about 10 years and been pretty, active in the community for all these years. You guys came out with a fantastic program. The low sal bucks is creative. I mean, what a great thing. It's awesome. Because we need to update or renew our CUP, and a couple other things, are not allowed to be part of that program. And it's a real challenging situation because we have a lot of people coming in wanting to use their money. They're buying new baseball bats, or we sell basketballs, playground balls, surfboards, you name it. 80% of what we sell is brand new, and it's a great business for this community. We interact with everybody. Over the weekend, we probably had, and I wasn't there the entire time, but upwards of 10 people come in saying, I want to use the bucks. And we had to say, I'm sorry, you can't. So something that's designed that is, extremely creative and a really great program, it's actually hurting us. And I'm just trying to figure out what we can do to jump on board this program and be part of it. So I wanted to bring it up. I think it's a fantastic opportunity, and I like what you guys are doing. It's just awfully tough when I have to say, no, we can't take those. So we're working with Tom Oliver. We got the CUP sent in. He's helping fill out some of the finer details on it. And other issues that have come up, we're trying to get those worked out as well. But everything happened pretty quickly, and it just so happened that the timing was just kind of a odd timing for us. So if there's something the city council can do to help us, or anything I can do to make this happen, we're eager to do that.
Okay.
So-
And what, city manager, yeah, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, sir, that I am actually in receipt of an email from this gentleman with regards to his business, and Director Noda and I are actually talking about different ways that we can speed up the process in order to make his business eligible to be able to participate.
As it stands right now, we won't be able to do the CUP until sometime late January. So at that point, there's not a lot we can do about it. So
Okay.
So that's it.
Understood. We'll chat about it as well and see what the city can do.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Okay, next we will move on to the consent calendar. All consent calendar items may be acted upon by one motion unless a council member requests separate action on a specific item. I will be pulling items B and G just for a couple of quick comments and questions. Does anyone else want to pull anything or have questions on anything?
Could you add F, L, and M to that, please?
F, L, and M?
Uh-huh.
Okay. And we'll try to do this quickly, so hopefully we can just vote on the whole set thereafter. So I'll start off with B. This is a purchasing ordinance amendment. I don't think I need the full staff report, City Manager Simmons. We talked about it earlier today, and just so it's out in the public and the council members hear it as well. I know we're increasing the threshold on your authority from $20,000 to $50,000. And I think you suggested it. I think it's a good idea that we get a quarterly report on the contracts that you sign that fall within this.
Yes, sir. I think it's just for sake of transparency, I think that there's a real value to ensuring that while we're doing this, to expedite the process, to make sure that we're efficient and we can take advantage of opportunities as they come up. And I think the council agrees, is that we should also have a way for the council to be a check against that. And so this provides the opportunity for the council to be informed of any purchases that I'm making going forward.
Okay. Appreciate that. Next, we'll move on to we'll take these in order. Item F.
Mr. Mayor, just on that, I'm wondering, what's the relationship here in terms of the police program and possibly using the cadets in this regard? And I guess my concern is that they're obviously properly trained before we basically use them, I guess you would say, as undercover personnel in enforcing our laws here. And I guess I want to understand that a little better.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and let our captain,
Okay?
Wayne Byerly, talk a little bit about that. I can tell you that we don't have any cadets currently at the
Right.
police department that we'd be using as decoys, but he worked really hard in securing the grant for the 20, I think it was 20,000. And if you would, Captain Byerly, comment to that,
Sure.
the purpose for it.
Okay. Good evening, Mayor, City Council. The program, it has two components where they use minors, and legally we can do so. And one is for the shoulder tap program, where you have a minor. It's somebody, well, not a minor, but it's somebody who's under 21 years of age, and they'll be outside of an establishment that sells alcohol, and they'll see if they can get somebody to make a purchase for them. The other one is for the minor decoy program, and the constraints there is that we need somebody who's under 20 years old, and they look young. There's some other components to that requirements, but they go into an establishment and see if they can purchase alcohol. And one of the components of that is that if they're asked by the employee, that they have to be honest. Yeah, I'm not 21, and to the point where they can even produce an ID if they need to. So that said, when we do utilize those folks, it's typically a cadet or an explorer.
Right.
I had a great conversation with our ABC agent who's going to be working with us, and there's a very robust training program. Our operations involve one supervisor, 3 officers, so that person's safety is always first and foremost. But it's done under strict supervision.
But I guess my question more is, who are you recruiting to do this work? Is it our local kids? Who's going to be recruited? I got the idea they're going to be well supervised and nobody's going to be at risk, but it seems to me that if you're encouraging the people to help the police department, you want to get some benefit out of that, like people who might be interested in going through the academy at some point, or that are interested in law enforcement. So I wonder if there's some connection there to, that if we're going to recruit these kids, maybe there is some future for them in law enforcement if they're trying to help us.
I'm sorry, if I could, Captain Byerly. Councilman Bates, although we don't have a current cadet program, we did have an Explorer program.
Right.
And we still have members that are still listed on that are currently available, but because of COVID, we've not had it up and running. They would be our first people that we'd look at to recruit, and they're already recruited, and actually give them an opportunity to engage in a law enforcement operation like that.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay, next we'll move on to item G, Memorandum of Understanding with Teamsters Local 911. I don't think I need a staff report on this either. I just wanted to say, we're voting on Memorandum of Understanding labor contract, 3-year contract with the Teamsters, and also one of the later agenda items is for the non-represented employees, which are management, executive staff. Just wanted to express my thoughts that we're pleased that we have a deal with both groups. A lot of these folks, sacrificed last year during COVID. They took temporary pay cuts. They worked really hard, and they kept this city running despite all the challenges. So we're appreciative of that. We're appreciative of the fact that we have a deal done with them. Any negotiation, both parties are going to be usually happy when the deal's done, and usually sufficiently happy with the terms. If one party in any negotiation is super thrilled, then it probably wasn't a fair deal. But I think both sides here are happy with getting a deal done and moving forward. And again, just want to express our appreciation for all that the individuals in these two groups have done. Okay, moving on to, let me see, we had item L.
Yes, and Mr. Mayor, maybe I could combine L and M in the same comment. I think this has to do again with our public works effort, and Ron Noda is obviously the one responsible for this. And I would just like to say, and I hope all of us, and I know we do, when we're driving around town and we see problems with our streets, Ron's the guy we call and say, hey, need to take a look at this. Well, I was noticing under L that the improvements along Bloomfield stop at Catella. Well, just across Catella, for those who have their kids that are going to LaSalle Elementary or McAuliffe, you'll notice that the street there, Bloomfield on the other side in the left-hand turn pocket, hopefully we don't lose any cars in there, but it's getting a little rough. So I guess I'm saying when we're looking at these, let's look at those obvious areas, and maybe when we're there, if there's a little extra money, that we can also look at making the repairs there. I would apply the same comment to M, because I noticed when I looked at all the projects on M, they were basically in college, in the north area of the city, but right across, we've got to remember that across Ball, there's another part of the city called Country Square, and possibly they're not getting as much attention. I know there's some real road problems on Kingmont up there, because I got hit when I was out campaigning there. And there's some areas where the street isn't level and they're causing, flooding. We just heard about the mosquitoes, thank you, Tonya. And they're, an opportune spot for them because the road isn't properly graded and filled over there. So I hope, again, when we're looking at all those projects for College Park North, we also look across Ball and take a look at Kingmont. So those are just my comments, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, very good, thank you. With that, do we have a motion on the consent calendar items?
So
Yep.
moved. Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, next we'll move on to item 12A, ordinance number 2021-04, state video franchise holders. We have a staff report on this from the city attorney.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. And just as a quick clarification, the ordinance this evening is actually 2021-07. There was an error with the numeric identifier there. Before the council for consideration this evening is an ordinance that amends and restates existing municipal code chapter 5.20 relating to cable franchises. And this ordinance is intended to implement the 2006 Digital Video Competition Act. Prior to that act being passed by the state legislature, cities and counties would, on a one-by-one basis, grant franchise rights to various cable television providers and communication companies. And indeed, that's what Los Alamitos has done historically. You may ask why we are now discussing implementation of a 2006 piece of legislation. And the reason for that is that we have had a longstanding franchise agreement with our cable provider. However, that agreement recently expired in October, so now we're coming back to implement an ordinance that's consistent with the state law. And what the state law does is, rather than having a city-by-city franchise process, is that the communications companies can now go to the state through the Public Utilities Commission and be granted a statewide franchise that gives them the right to work throughout the state. With this legislation, however, the right of the city to charge a 5% franchise fee from the company remains, as well as the ability to charge a 1% fee that goes to support the public educational and government access channels and so forth. So the ordinance, again, is consistent with state law and most notably is being enacted to make sure that we will continue to receive our quarterly payments for the 5% franchise fee and then the 1% PEG fee.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, question for the city attorney. So a lot of our city is covered by Spectrum, and I realize the Spectrum contract hasn't been renewed yet, and ultimately, when it comes up, I'm assuming some of the same provisions will apply. No problem there. My question is simply this. There's requirements in here for coordination between the franchise companies to deliver service. So example, we have things on Channel 3 for the city. How do we guarantee that both franchisees will work together to assure that Channel 3, for example, is going to be our major way of communicating with the public. We don't have to go on channel 3 on one system and channel 10 on another system. So how is this written in such a way that there's a requirement for those two to coordinate under the guidance or direction of the city?
Yeah, I don't know if you have experience with that, Chad. or-
So if I can,
Please.
sir. So, sir, the bill does allow for us to actually impose fines and to actually monitor those operations of the cable companies. It does allow us to establish a fine register as to how exactly we can apply those. So that will be the way in which we will go forward and try to ensure that we're getting the service that we need from each one of these providers.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Do you have to?
I do.
Go ahead.
Prior to making a motion, I would say that before the council for consideration is ordinance number 2021-07, entitled An Ordinance of the City Council of the City of Los Alamitos, California, amending and restating Chapter 5.20 of Title 5 of the Los Alamitos Municipal Code pertaining to state video franchise holders.
Okay, thank you. Do we have a motion?
Move approval.
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Motion passes. Next, item 12B, ordinance number 2021-06, amended and restated Chapter 8.12 of the Los Alamitos Municipal Code to implement state organics recycling mandates.
If I can, sir, I'd like to ask our waste management czar, Ron Noda, to take this one.
Evening, Mayor, members of the City Council. So we're talking about SB Bill 1383. As you are aware, it has been it's a mandate handed down from the state of Sacramento to a lot of the municipalities in California, including Los Alamitos. And so part of our mandate that we have requirements that we have to fulfill to be compliant. So some of those requirements include providing organic waste recycling to all residents and businesses. We have to enforce all our compliance related, again, to SB 1383. We have to implement an edible food recovery program. We have to conduct outreach and education to all affected parties to, again, educate them on organic recycling and SB 1383. We have to procure recycled organic waste products such as compost, mulch, renewable natural gas, and if not, we have to also have impose fines for non-compliance, and also if we are not compliant as a city, then we are also fined from the state as well. So what you have before you is ordinance, again, number 2021-06 to update our Los Alamitos Municipal Code to implement and have us tie in with the state mandates. I also want to report that we are on track to meet a lot of the mandates, including outreach and education. That is also assisting us will be our new waste hauler that's coming in. They are targeted to begin January 1st of 2022, and staff has been hard at work, such as implementing an edible food recovery program. We have already met with a local nonprofit food finders that's based here in Los Alamitos to implement on that. So we are, I'd like to report, on track to get a lot of our compliance before the 2024 date. So again, this tonight is to, again, align us with the state mandate.
Excellent. Councilmember Bates?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, council members, again, I think we're doing what we need to do, and staff is on top of this. Our collector, this was discussed in the franchising process that we went through. But let's make sure the residents understand this. And what I mean by this is simply this, is that great idea eventually needs to be done. This is just typical of the state again. In fact, I probably should have brought it up to the assembly member, and she would have probably agreed with me. Where the state mandates stuff on cities, we have to implement this, and they provide zero funding to do this. So what happens if our contracts eventually increase over time to pay for this? The residents pay for it, state mandates it. So let's make that clear here. This is another state mandate that we're having to implement. Not that it's not a good idea, but that we're paying for as local residents, and the city is responsible to implement this. So enough said. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Appreciate that. Thank you. Any other comments? Okay. Do we have a motion for approval?
So moved.
Mayor, if I could read the title of the ordinance.
Excuse me.
That's right.
Yeah.
Sure, thank
Yeah.
you, if I may. So before the City Council for consideration is ordinance number 2021-06, entitled, "An Ordinance of the City Council of the City of Los Alamitos, California, amending and restating Chapter 8.12 of Title 8 of the Los Alamitos Municipal Code, implementing SB 1383 organic recycling regulations."
Okay, now do we have a motion?
Yes.
Okay, and do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. Thank you. Next, we'll move on to the discussion items. Item 13A, adoption of resolution establishing salaries and benefits for non-represented employees.
Thank you, sir. And I believe the city attorney needs to make a statement with regards to this item.
Yeah, so if I could, pursuant to the Brown Act, since this involves executive management compensation, prior to taking final action, a summary must be provided in terms of the compensation and benefits being provided through your action. With respect to this matter, given that it is a large group of employees listed here, I would just simply draw reference to the schedule of salaries and so forth included as the staff report for an indication of the compensation being granted by your action this evening.
Okay, thank you. And do we have a report?
If the council would like one, yes?
Yeah, go ahead.
So
Thank you.
I would like to say, sir, that much like the Teamsters MOU, the non-represented group also has had a successful negotiations led by our admin services manager, Chelsea Wilson. They have come back with a 3-year deal, which includes a 6.5% increase over the life of the contract, with 2.5 in the first year, 2% the second year, and 2% again on the third year. There's also a one-time lump sum, a two-time payment of $2,500 that is being paid out of the American Rescue Plan Act. So those are not city dollars that are going to be paying these one-time funds. There also is an increase in the medical stipend that we provide to our employees to purchase health insurance, with a $25 increase for a single employee in year 3, a $125 increase for an employee plus one dependent in year 1, and for a family, a $175 increase in year 1. I'm happy to report that all of these changes can be accomplished within the current budget, and we will not require an additional budget adjustment at this time.
And Mayor, this is pretty consistent with the Teamsters.
Exactly, sir.
Yeah.
Excellent. Does anyone else have any questions? Okay.
I'll move it. Or do we need?
We are voting on this, correct?
Yes, sir.
It's a discussion item. Okay.
So I'll go ahead and move it.
All right.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, next, item 13B, personnel changes, city clerk/communications director.
Sir, if I can provide you just a quick summary of what this action is. Obviously, as you've noticed, I'm sure everyone has, is that everyone is wearing many hats now as we start to change the way that the city functions internally. One of the opportunities that we see is really trying to capture the harness some of the power that we have coming out of the city with regards to our communications, making sure that our message is clear, making sure it's concise, and making sure that we're able to get it out to as many people as possible. Right now, that is a function that's dispersed throughout the city, which obviously is not exactly the best way to do that. In discussions with the city council and talking with staff, it seemed like consolidating all of that work into one area was probably a good idea moving forward. I have dragooned the city clerk into taking on some additional work in order to see this project go forward. I'm very thankful for her willingness to step up to the plate and take a swing at this one. Obviously, it is something that the city needs, and we can accomplish without adding additional staff. This motion would also place the city clerk under the day-to-day supervision of the city manager, and that's purely for, I think, just reporting and make some efficiencies with regards to the reporting structure.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions? Okay.
Mayor, if I may.
Yes.
Again, because this item as
I'm
well
going to check with
deals
you on every item tonight.
Appreciate it. Because this item likewise involves compensation for executive management, we are required to verbally summarize the measure before you. As the city manager mentioned, this involves the combination of the city clerk and director of communications classifications into one job position. Recommended action also includes approval of a proposed employment agreement with Ms. Quintanar for the position of city clerk / director of communications, which would provide for an annual salary of $112,444.80 annually. And Ms. Quintanar, if approved, would also be entitled to the other benefits as specified in Resolution 2021-25, which was approved previously with Action 13A on this evening's agenda.
Okay. Do we have a motion? Yes.
Point of order.
And then I'm sorry, I should not have taken a breath. I would also like to read the title of the ordinance for you all.
All right. Go ahead. Sorry about that. I know we have a really long agenda, so I've been pressured by Mayor Pro Tem Hasselbrink to move things along.
dragooned.
A dragoon. Mayor Pro Tem Hasselbrink. Yeah, I like that one. All right, go ahead.
This is ordinance 2021-05, entitled An Ordinance of the City Council of the City of Los Alamitos, California, amending sections 2.12.020 and 2.12.030 of the Los Alamitos Municipal Code relating to the office of the city clerk. Thank you.
And I'll go ahead and make the motion, but I'd first like to, I had to look up dragoon because it's been a few decades since I've had an English class. The first definition was a member of any several cavalry regiments in the British Army. That wasn't it. So then I looked at the verb, and it's to coerce some into doing something. I don't know how much coercion it was, but I also want to make the comment that, when we go out and about, one of the biggest compliments or one of the biggest complaints that we get is the communication levels as a city. So this is a big job, a big deal. You're going to do great at it. And we'll have somebody to blame if they complain about the communication, which is awesome. You always need a scapegoat. So I just think it just goes hand in hand with what you already do with the communications that you do internally here. So I'm excited for you to be taking this on. And with that, I'll move the item.
The longest motion ever, but.
But you learned a new word. You're welcome.
All right, all in favor?
Aye. Thank
Okay.
you, Wendy.
Thank you. Next, item C, resolution number 2021-32, awarding the city manager a performance-based incentive bonus for calendar year 2021. Go ahead, city attorney.
Thank you, Mayor. Pursuant to the city manager's employment agreement, at the end of each calendar year, the city manager, at the city council's discretion, may be entitled to a 2% performance-based incentive bonus. By adopting the proposed resolution, the city council would approve a 2% performance-based incentive bonus for City Manager Simmons, totaling $3,868 for the 2021 calendar year. I'd also like to just quickly point out another unfortunate typo in the staff report at page 2, where it lists the dollar value of the performance bonus. The numeric value in the parentheticals is correct. Again, it's $3,868.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Are we, well, let me just state that, this bonus is well-deserved. It's pursuant to the city manager's contract. City Manager Simmons came into the city right before COVID hit and has done a phenomenal job, and I think everyone in the community recognizes that. I think all of the council recognizes that as well. And so we just wanted to say thank you. And again, this is well-deserved. Am I free to make a motion, to request a motion? Okay. All right. I'll make the motion. We've got a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Okay, so next we will move on to item 13D, which is a nonprofit grant program for food insecurities. City Manager?
Sir, this is a fantastic program, and I'm going to ask Director Noda to, again, give a short description of it.
I can't ask city attorney to do the next two. I'm just kidding. The city of Los Alamitos will receive $70,000 from the Orange County Board of Supervisors, District 2 Supervisor Katrina Foley's district, as part of the American Rescue Plan Act of 2021 to address food insecurities. The recommendation tonight is to authorize the creation of the nonprofit grant program and approve the allocation of $70,000 with the ARPA funds to go towards nonprofits, and I will discuss the eligibility in a little bit, and to authorize the city manager to enact the proposed funding options for the City of Los Alamitos nonprofit grant program for food insecurities and execute any needed documents to enact the program. We do have a short time frame. We have to expend these funds by December 31st, 2021. Just as a background, since the beginning of the pandemic, the city has been aggressively enacting programs and projects aimed at lessening the burden and impacts of the pandemic on our residents and businesses. In July 2020, the city distributed business grants as part of the city's Emergency Relief Small Business Grant Program, and more recently, Los Al Bucks. Due to the pandemic, many families have felt the impact of food insecurities and have turned to our local nonprofit organizations for aid, and we would like to assist our local nonprofits in successfully filling this need for our community. With that, the proposed program is eligible for qualified Los Alamitos-based nonprofits for a maximum of $5,000 grants to assist with food insecurities over the holidays on a first-come, first-served basis. The eligibility criteria includes nonprofits and churches that are 501c3 based in Los Alamitos, with part of their mission to providing goods and services for food insecurities to benefit those in need, and also the nonprofits that can be part of the Serve Los Al committee and in good standing that also serves Los Alamitos with a mission to provide goods and services for food insecurities. In addition, we have $8,000 set aside for $50 gift certificates to military families as part of the Bob USO Holiday Assistance Program, and then the city's own senior grocery program. We have 80 households as well. We'd like to distribute $50 gift cards.
Sir, if I can just make a comment. Again, this is a very quick turnaround from the supervisor's office, and again, I have to compliment staff that the second they found out about it, it wasn't more than a couple days before I had an entirely worked out plan on my desk on how we were going to move forward and get this money out to the community. So again, we are working on a lot of different projects, but the ability to deploy money quickly is something that we have definitely become better at in the last couple of years. So,
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
question to follow up on that. Obviously, this is a great program, and thanks staff for doing the work on this. My only concern, quite frankly, is that given these guidelines, that we'd be able to get all $70,000 out the door. So my hope is that in approving this, we can give the city manager some flexibility to vary the numbers a little bit if we need to make sure we spend all the $70,000.
Thank you, Councilmember Bates. It was going to be one of my next comments is, given the timetable that we have to deploy the money, that if a certain degree of latitude could be authorized for myself to obviously not go over any spending limits that have been set for me, but to adjust the program in the event that we don't get as many applications as we need, so that we can expend the money and not have to give anything back to the county.
Absolutely.
I have a quick question. Are we going to actively reach out to our known nonprofits that deal with food insecurities?
Director Noda?
So today we actually had a Serve Los Al committee meeting, and several of the nonprofits I actually gave them a heads up ahead of time last week to be on this call. So some were on Zoom, some were in person, and the majority are all aware and ready and waiting for that application tomorrow.
Good, because I don't think we'll have any problem with lack of applications.
I don't think we will
Yeah,
either.
perfect.
I'm hopeful.
I have a question. Is there any talks of the schools, like having any funds going towards the schools at all? Would that, I don't know how much of it, I know that y'all are carnivorous with the carve-ups, But if there's anything left, is that a possibility? Because you know you got children there that,
So a big assumption too is that the local nonprofits are already serving a lot of our local school families. If you talk to any of them, they've had an influx of families over COVID, so a lot of them have been from the schools. But we can further discuss that after, City Manager.
I actually don't have any problem at all reaching out to the school district to see if this is something that we can find a way to partner on moving forward. So that's a phone call that I can make to Dr. Pohl for tomorrow.
okay, because they have the PTA and the Friends of groups on each of the, or whatever boosters, and just, they usually have like a list of families that when things are offered, they are ready to accept. So it wouldn't be like a huge stretch. It's just like, if you need some more hands, I know you'll find them at the school.
Sure they will.
Excellent. Great program, and thank you for turning that around so quickly. Why wouldn't we take money that is
Right.
not ours and contribute it to nonprofits and getting that to people who need it? So that's excellent.
Move approval.
Move approval?
Second.
Second. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, and finally, we've got item 13E, 501c3 nonprofit City of Los Alamitos Foundation.
And sir, I'm going to turn this one back over to Director Noda again, but essentially what we're asking for tonight is the City Council has already approved the idea of a community foundation in order to augment the work that we already do here in the city. What we are looking for tonight is some direction on some specifics with regards to the name of the foundation, the selection of the board members, and some feedback with regards to the membership and the bylaws. Director Noda?
Good evening again. I would like to take you through this process, and hopefully it'll be a quick process. In regards to the name for City Foundation, we've proposed some suggestions, but it's not limited to. Some of these suggestions include City of Los Alamitos Foundation, Los Alamitos City Foundation, Los Alamitos Community Foundation, and Los Alamitos Neighborhood Foundation. So I'd like to open it up for discussion on this item.
I'll start. I kind of like the Los Alamitos Community Foundation.
I did too. I'm with you, Shelly.
That's where I'm at.
All right.
Well, I know you felt it coming. Does it have to have that verbiage in it? Are you looking for something that has community or foundation, or does it just need to have Los Al?
Los Alamitos will help identify it, yes.
Well, because you guys have serve Los Al. So my first thought was give Los Al.
Very unique.
All right. We've got 3 Los Alamitos Community Foundation. I was going to go with City of Los Alamitos Foundation to make it clear it's the city, but I'm good with Community Foundation. I'm good with whatever the council decides. Although maybe we leave it to Director Noda to decide.
Oh, no, thank you. I politely decline, Mayor.
This seems like a communication. All right, I'll make a motion to go with Los Alamitos Community Foundation. I don't even know if we need a motion, but I'll go with Los Alamitos Community Foundation. Everybody okay with that?
Yeah.
All right. Okay, next, proposed board membership structure and bylaws recommendations.
Okay, so the proposed structure is a maximum of 9 total voting board members, 5 representing the city districts, 1 member, which is a resident per district, 2 members representing the business community, residency not required, and then 2 city council members. So there's a couple ways I'd like to first talk about the total of 9, and if you're okay with that, and then second, how you would like to go about selecting. So would you like to accept applications, nomination forms, do kind of similar to the commission route of doing interviews, and then maybe bringing like the timeline to early January, and then maybe prior to the January council meeting, you can start doing these interviews? I'd just like to open that up for discussion.
Sure. One question I have is 9 seems like a lot. We've got 5 up here. Maybe this is typical in this sort of foundation, but I know on our commission sometimes we have a hard time recruiting folks to sit on those. Do we think we'll have any issue with finding 9?
And it's up to 9. It doesn't have to be 9.
Okay.
Well, and I think with the 5, what I would like to do is now that we're in established districts, go out to our districts of people. We know our people in our districts, I would hope, and kind of solicit them to apply for it. So I think we
Yeah.
might get a little bit more.
Or we appoint, I mean, is there the possibility of the city council appointing or each member appointing somebody from their district? I mean, this is all flexible, right?
As long as the council agrees.
I mean, it might be easier if we each appoint one person from our districts, and then the other positions maybe are based on applications, and the whole council would consider those. I mean, the 2 city council members, we can select those, right?
Yes.
The 2 members representing business community, maybe we have those individuals apply. I mean, I guess we're open to suggestions, I think. Is that city manager?
If I can make a suggestion, sir.
Sure.
I think a individual from each district, I think that makes a lot of sense, but the application process for the 2 business community members, I think that and allowing them to be interviewed by the board before a decision is made is probably a prudent way to move forward with this.
Okay.
Just 2 thoughts, Mr. Mayor. One is, I think it would make sense because it kind of looked here like we were going to assign positions. I think once we get the board established, why not let the board choose a chair and a vice chair to organize? That was one thought. And the second thought, and this one relates to the city attorney, I think when you disband, if for any reason, a 501c3, there's specific ways you have to disband it, and the money can only go to certain categories of organizations. I'm not sure the city necessarily qualifies as one of those categories, so appreciate your thoughts and comments on that.
Yeah, there's most certainly a specific process when you wind down a nonprofit and how those funds can be distributed out. That's something we'll definitely need to look at as we move forward and try to form bylaws and determine the structure of this organization.
We're good.
Okay. Was there anything else on that subject in terms of board membership structure and bylaws recommendations?
Just if you would like me to read, I can, or if you'd just like to review it and see if there's any objections besides what city attorney will be looking into.
Yeah, I mean, feel free. That way it's publicly stated.
Okay. Other recommendations, city staff serving as ex officio board members, no voting status, to represent the various departments and be available to provide input or education on projects or programs. Individual donations can be designated towards a particular CIP project or city program or service in any department. Include language in the bylaws that in the event the foundation goes dormant, that remaining funds be made available and deposited to the city of Los Alamitos to offset general fund expenditures, which will be further looked into. Leave open the opportunity to hire foundation staff members or work with contractors in the future to implement foundation events or to pursue grants as needed or requested. And the staff will be able to move forward with creating a city foundation board member application and contact the company that assists to establish nonprofits to begin the filing process to not exceed $5,000 as the fiscal impact.
Okay, excellent. Do we have a motion to approve the
Concept.
board membership structure bylaws recommendations as set forth in the staff report?
So moved.
Enthusiastically second it.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, and I think with that, we will adjourn the meeting tonight at 7:47 p.m.
Mr. Mayor, I'm
Oh.
sorry, if I may.
It was close. I was coming down.
If we can adjourn to December 13th, that is the second Monday instead of the third Monday.
Okay,
December
adjourned
13th at 6 o'clock.
to December 13th, 2021 at 6 o'clock p.m. Thank you.
Thank you.